Ready for a story that will make your heart pound? Because I'm about to spill the tea on a night that absolutely blindsided me. A night that showed up out of nowhere and flipped my entire world upside down. This rundown motel, miles from anywhere, became the backdrop for the most electric connection I've ever felt. Seriously, my pulse is still thrumming just thinking about it. Settle in, because this isn't just a story, it's a wild ride you won't want to miss. If you live for those chance encounters that leave you breathless, you are definitely in the right place. You need to hit subscribe right now, because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. I never intended to land at this faded beige motel, its neon sign flickering like a dying ember, and a vacancy hum louder than my own thoughts. But sometimes, life just throws you a curveball. My whole trip was supposed to be a mental reset. Cruising down empty highways, windows down, music blaring. My genius plan to outrun the haze of confusion that had been dogging me for weeks, honestly, more like months. Liam, bless his heart, was perfect on paper. Sweet, reliable, with a smile that could disarm anyone. 3 years we'd been together, and suddenly, everyone had questions. When's the wedding? House hunting soon? Starting a family? The usual script. The thing was, every time he looked at me like I was his universe, I felt this hollow ache where certainty should have been. I couldn't explain it. Not to him, not even to myself. So I kept it simple, just a weekend, time to breathe. And Liam, being Liam, just kissed my forehead and told me to take care. Now here I was, staring at the worn wood-paneled walls of room 12, feeling just as lost as when I'd left. The air was a charming cocktail of mildew and industrial cleaner, and the sad floral bedspread sagged right in the middle. The TV was bolted to the wall at this bizarre angle that was honestly driving me bonkers. I tossed my bag onto the chair by the window, sank onto the bed, and tried to piece together my fractured thoughts. That's when the knock on the door changed everything. For a split second, I thought it was the manager coming to tell me something was wrong. But when I swung that door open, let me tell you, the guy standing there was definitely not the manager. He was tall, hair still damp from the rain outside, holding up a key that looked exactly like mine. His dark eyes scanned the room behind me, then locked onto mine, one eyebrow subtly raised. I swear my heart skipped a beat. "This is my room," he said, his voice deep but surprisingly gentle. I held up my key like it was some kind of shield. "No, it's mine. Room 12. See?" He sighed, looking tired but not annoyed. "Guess there's been a mix-up. They told me this was the only room left." I was about to argue, then stopped. Not his fault, and honestly, the thought of dealing with that grumpy manager again wasn't exactly appealing. I stepped back, gesturing to our glamorous accommodations. "Fine, but I'm not leaving." His smile, small and amused, did something wild to my stomach. "Wasn't planning on asking you to." He dropped his duffel next to mine and surveyed our 5-star suite. "Cozy," he said, eyeing the single bed. And somehow, that made everything both better and worse. I crossed my arms, suddenly hyper-aware of everything. "It's just for the night," I said, more to convince myself than him. "I'll be gone first thing in the morning." "Same here," he replied, leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets as if trying to take up less space in our shoebox room. We sat in this tense silence for what felt like an eternity. The rain outside had picked up, drumming against the windows. He watched it for a moment before turning those captivating eyes back to me. "So, what brings you here? Don't seem like the middle-of-nowhere motel type." I hesitated, torn between brushing him off and spilling my guts. Something about his voice, casual yet genuinely curious, made me want to talk. "I needed a break," I finally admitted, "from everything." He nodded, like he understood completely. "Same." That was it. No story, no explanation needed, and honestly, it was perfect. I couldn't help but study him when he wasn't looking. He had this whole rugged vibe, broad shoulders, perfect stubble, and eyes that somehow looked both sharp and utterly exhausted. There was something remarkably steady about him that made our tiny room feel less like a trap and more like something else entirely. "You're not from around here," he said after a while. "No," I told him, "just passing through." He didn't push for more, and I was grateful. Instead, he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed, testing the springs. "Guess we're flipping for the bed." I stared at him, trying to figure out if he was serious. He smirked, patting the mattress. "Relax, I'll take the floor." Not my first sketchy motel. Something about his easy confidence made me want to challenge it. You don't have to play the hero, I said. We can share. The smirk faded into something softer, more serious. You sure? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The air between us had shifted, that initial tension melting into something heavier, more electric. You seem restless, he said quietly, his eyes searching mine. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. I don't know what I'm doing with this trip, with anything. His gaze held steady. Maybe you don't have to know, he said. Maybe you just have to feel it out. His words hung between us, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Slowly he reached for my hand, his fingers brushing mine. It was a small, deliberate movement, but it sent a shiver through me. I didn't pull away. When his lips touched mine, it was tentative at first, testing the waters. But the hesitation didn't last. The weight of his hands on my waist, the press of his body against mine, it all felt inevitable, like we'd been careening toward this moment since the second he'd knocked on my door. The space between us dissolved as his lips met mine again, this time with more intent. The firm weight of his hands on my waist anchored me as he pulled me closer. The warmth of his body against mine was immediate, igniting a fire that spread through me like a slow, deliberate burn. His fingers moved deliberately, sliding under my shirt and tracing the bare skin of my back. His touch was both tender and commanding, each movement leaving a trail of heat in its wake. I arched into him instinctively, a soft gasp escaping my lips as his hands explored the curve of my spine. There was something intoxicating about the way he held me, possessive yet reverent, as though he couldn't decide whether to claim me or worship me. I let my hands roam, mapping the broad expanse of his shoulders and the taut lines of his chest. The muscles beneath my fingertips flexed with every shift, every movement, as though he was holding himself back, struggling to stay in control. His breath quickened, mingling with mine as his lips traveled from my mouth to my jaw, then down the column of my throat. Each kiss, each brush of his lips against my skin sent shivers coursing through me. I felt him lower me back against the bed, his hand steadying me as I sank into the mattress. The world narrowed to the two of us, the heat of his touch, the sound of his breath, the way his body fit so perfectly against mine. He hovered above me for a moment, his gaze searching mine as if asking for permission, even now. I nodded, my fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt and pulling him closer. His weight pressed against me, grounding me in a way that felt strangely liberating. His hands were everywhere, at my hips, my waist, sliding along the length of my legs with a deliberate, aching slowness. Every touch felt like a question and an answer all at once, a language we both instinctively understood. The fabric between us disappeared, discarded piece by piece, until there was nothing left but skin against skin. His warmth enveloped me, his hands and lips moving in tandem, creating a rhythm that was both exhilarating and agonizing in its intensity. Each movement was deliberate, a push and pull that built with every passing moment. When he pressed closer, his body aligning with mine, the sensation was overwhelming. It was as though every nerve in my body came alive at once, attuned to him and him alone. His hands framed my face, his thumbs brushing gently against my cheekbones as his lips found mine again. The kiss was different this time. Deeper, hungrier, as though we were both losing ourselves in the moment, surrendering to something neither of us could control. My hands found his back, my fingers tracing the planes of muscle as I held him against me. The connection between us was undeniable, an unspoken understanding that transcended words. Every shift of his weight, every deliberate movement, drew me closer to the edge, the world around us fading into nothingness. The room was filled with the sound of our breaths, the quiet rustle of sheets, the occasional gasp as his hands or lips found a particularly sensitive spot. It was a symphony of sensation, a perfect harmony that built to a crescendo. Neither of us could hold back. When it was over, we stayed tangled together, catching our breath as reality slowly crept back in. His hand trailed down my arm, gentle but steady, keeping me grounded in this moment before the real world could claim us again. Morning came too soon, it always does. I woke up to find him already dressed, lacing his boots, his jacket slung over his shoulder, bag waiting by the door. He caught me watching. Didn't want to wake you? You're leaving? I pulled the blanket around me. Yeah. He paused, gave me this almost shy smile that made my heart flip. Thanks for sharing the room. I wanted to say something, anything, to make him stay just a little longer. But maybe this was exactly how it needed to end. A perfect moment caught between one life and the next. He opened the door, letting in the cool morning air. Before he went, he looked back at me one last time, his eyes holding mine just long enough to make my heart ache. Take care of yourself. And then he was gone. I sat there forever, wrapped in that blanket, feeling the warmth he left behind. All those questions I was running from? They were still there, but somehow they felt different now. For one night, I let myself exist outside the lines of my careful life. Maybe that's not an answer, but it's something. When I finally stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean and new, like possibilities. I got in my car, gripped the wheel, and started the drive home, carrying this secret night with me. Damn, sometimes I still catch myself thinking about that night. If this story hit you right in the feels, smash that like button and drop a comment about your most unexpected encounter. Want more stories that'll make your pulse race? Hit subscribe. There's plenty more where that came from. Until next time, keep chasing those beautiful accidents.